Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. I'm a little less excited right now because it is kind of late where I'm at and I need to keep my voice down, so please know that going into this video. But you guys saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, you know that I wouldn't bring anyone else into this video besides MJ, the second half of the dynamic duo. Man, why don't you say hello to everyone listening?
Don't worry, Mark. If you can't be hyped, I'll be hyped for you. How's everyone doing? MJ from MJ TV here. Let's talk about, I guess, Frieza and Buu, right? That is the topic of this video.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so guys, we have this ongoing series on this channel, and I really just want to preface this by I'm hoping to do a whole lot more of these in the future, talking about Dragon Ball Super narratively and some of the fights that we actually should have gotten, because if we break it down, that's really what Dragon Ball was all about. Dragon Ball Super is really all about is the fights that we got. You know, everyone's going to be talking about for years to come that first Goku versus Jiren fight with Ultra Instinct, or maybe the new ones coming up, some of the fights with Toppo and Vegeta, or maybe Frieza versus Goku in the movie and also the arc adaptation. There's just so much to talk about, but with that being said, there's a lot that they didn't give us, and one of those fights that I really think that they should have given us to give us an idea of what is going on in the grander scope of Dragon Ball, and one of the things I think they tease not only in the movie, but also the arc adaptation of the Fictional F movie, Frieza versus Majin Buu. So let me just paint this picture for you, man. Like, this is what I really would like to see. I think it was really necessary for the arc going into this, at least for the show, not necessarily for the movie. But so they bring back Frieza, right? They wish him back. They bring him back to life. He comes back and he goes, you know what? My father always told me the people I needed to kind of stay away from is Beerus the Destroyer and Majin Buu. Those are people that I couldn't step to, at least according to my father. And at this point, as a fan of Dragon Ball, we all know that Frieza couldn't sense power levels. It wasn't in his being to sense power levels. And at least as far as the movie went, and they could have adapted this, is it was a little unclear whether or not Frieza could in the movie sense power levels still. You know, he had gone through all this training. He had definitely gotten to the point of being God level. But could he sense power levels? We're not sure. But they made a point to bring up the Majin Buu reference. He knew about Majin Buu when we didn't think he knew about Majin Buu at the beginning of the Namek arc when we first met this guy. It would have been perfect just for a little scene stealer for everyone involved to have him fight Majin Buu when he comes to Earth, take him out so quickly and show not only to the audience but also to Frieza, wow, this is the extent of my training. It would have even, at least in my opinion, kind of cleaned up that whole mess of if I train in solidarity and in earnest for 4 months, I can get my power level up to this in my base form or whatever this shell form that I'm having right now, and I'll be that much stronger in my original form. It would allow us to be like, yeah, Frieza just doesn't know his own potential, his own capability until he actually fights Majin Buu, someone he knew about before he came back, and it's someone he realized that he could take out with ease, doesn't even have to go into his final form to take out. You're like, man, this guy's a monster. Visually appealing for everyone involved. Also, a real character moment for Frieza in that arc. What are your thoughts on all of that? I know I was going on for a little bit of a rant there.
Well, the one thing about this is that I'm going to have to bring this up because you're going to have people in the comment section down below. Well, Mark, MJ, Frieza was stronger than Buu. Why do we need to see it? And I just want to say, visual representation of a character defeating a previous enemy is something that just happens to make sense. Sometimes it doesn't always happen. However, there are statements, and I'm going off of the Buu arc. That's easier example to bring up. Deborah. It was mentioned that he was comparable to Cell. We don't know which form, but he was comparable to Cell, right? And what happened? Buu took him out with ease. So again, it's like trying to say the next big bad takes out the previous big bad. And an even more previous example, even though they aren't technically villains, the new big bad antagonist in Jiren took out the previous big bad antagonist and hit. You know what I mean? So That's just the way it's always kind of gone. And Boo kind of being the last actual villain from the series, because again, technically, Beerus wasn't I guess, villain. It makes sense for Frieza to come and to somewhat find himself in a confrontation against the demon of the universe, right? The demon of Universe 7. And I think it would have been a cool, fun fight, obviously, with Frieza probably whooping his butt. and then, visually telling the audience, okay, Frieza is not someone to play around with. And yeah, he messed up Gohan, it's true, but at the same time, it was very heavily implied. I know there's certain scaling out there that can help back up just how strong Gohan is, but the series kept implying he was weak. So again, it's not a good representation of Frieza's power until Goku shows up. Having it happen to Buu, yeah, I think that does make a lot of sense, and it was kind of built up. Obviously, we knew we were going to see Beerus versus Frieza, at least in the arc version. The movie version, we knew they had no confrontation whatsoever, and that Frieza was in fact scared of Beerus. So at least going into the arc version, I think Toei could have really kind of rewrote that. I don't want to say error, but rewrote it and kind of wrote Boo in. See, what I thought was going to happen, Mark, is when Gotenks showed up, I thought we were going to get Gotenks versus Frieza as a representation of one of the strongest characters from the Buu arc versus this new trained new body of Frieza, where Frieza again dominates him, and that's another representation of his power, a visual representation, because believe it or not, Gotenks was at one point one of the strongest characters in this series, at least back in Z when fused and in his Super Saiyan 3 form, right? So I thought that was going to happen, but no. So it kind of does bug me that we did not get Frieza versus any Buu saga character in a sense, like I know Gohan was there, but he wasn't in his ultimate form. So again, I kind of wish we would have gotten that, and we didn't. And I think Buu would have been really, really cool, because I don't know. It's me, but I think it would have been hilarious for Buu to like turn Frieza into a candy, even for a brief moment, and then you have the candy ball like, "What'd you do to me, you blob?" You know what I mean? He just starts kicking Boo's butt, so Boo's forced to change him back, kind of like an homage to the Vegito fight. But I think that would have been funny. There's so much they could have did with these two characters as far as a confrontation goes, at least in my opinion.
So I want to just kind of bring it back to the whole Battle of Gods thing, and I think it is worth mentioning. You look at the movie, you look at the television adaptation, or anything that they gave us, and we get Buu always coming back for Beerus. This guy is durable. It doesn't matter whether he gets completely destroyed from one fight to another, he's going to come back and fight to his heart's content. He's never going to stop. And as you already mentioned with Gotenks and with Gohan, it was implied that, these kind of Saiyans at this point, outside of Goku and Vegeta, at least have gotten a little bit soft. They are not training to the fullest of their extent, and they're not going to be as strong as they were. I agree with you with the whole Gotenks thing. Like, those guys should have actually come up and fought Frieza in a genuine way. But I have to just kind of making this point. They made a direct reference to Buu and Frieza's knowledge of Buu twice, not only in the movie, but also in the show. Why do that? I mean, legitimately, why do that if they had no intention of having these two fight? And as I already said, I think the only reason you have Buu and Frieza actually fight is because Frieza can't sense power levels. Frieza has this genuine held up fear based around not only his knowledge of Beerus, but also the greater knowledge of his father, telling him there's only two things based on your power level that you have to avoid in this entire universe. They make a point to tell you that, and then you show super easily that in his super suppressed, his shell form, because we all know that Frieza is a shell type of character. He doesn't transform to get stronger. He's literally transforming to kind of house his power, because he doesn't, as inconsistent as it is, as much as we know, at least as far as I know, he's transforming in order to keep his power under check. His full power is his own, and he doesn't really power up one way or the other. Of course, the manga breaks that logic pretty soon on in the Namek arc, but we're just going to kind of keep it at that. I can just imagine in his first form, nothing else, but in his first form, without even needing to transform, taking out Majin Buu in the exact same way that he took out Gohan. Savage, relenting and not really giving any care to anyone around him, that would have been epic. Maybe we wouldn't have got that inconsistency with Piccolo actually sacrificing himself. And at the same time, maybe Frieza at that point, for the very first time in this entire series that we as an audience are privy to, realizes the extent of his power. Narratively, what I think that actually does is it helps explain Frieza's tragedy or his fall from grace in that particular arc. When Goku and Vegeta instantly see through Frieza's power and his stamina drain and say, you don't understand the value of your own power. You don't know how to control it. As soon as you got your power, you came here to kind of destroy us and destroy everything. You thought that you were able to you would have this situation under control. And in that moment when he fights Buu, he's like, I have this situation under control. I don't even need to transform into my final form or my true form in order to fight this guy, because I am so unbelievably strong. This is someone I've feared since I was a child. I'm going to destroy these Saiyans. And that makes us realize that Frieza doesn't even understand the gravity of his own strength or how much it actually drains him. So by the time Goku and Vegeta actually beat him, he goes back into hell and he get him back at the Tournament of Power. And it makes a lot more sense that he would sit there and connive and figure out a way to actually control and make himself true Golden Frieza, which he should have done at the very beginning. He comes back at the Tournament of Power, a changed person in a much more gratifying way than just simply taking out a very weak Gohan, which I agree with you. One of the things the series did and the movie did as well is they really downplayed Gohan. And I think that that's really because Gohan is a fan favorite. They don't want to give him too much shade, because if they do, you're going to make a lot of fans mad, but you don't have the same problem with Majin Buu, and they had already set this up. I don't know why they didn't do it.
I just want to say, if I can paint a picture for you.
Please.
So, I want to go back to the Buu arc and to the Kid Buu fight. People forget this. I'm not going to go in if it makes sense or not, but people do forget this, that Buu can ramp it up. So I'm not going to use the word suppressed, like how Goku would suppress himself just to have a good fight. Maybe when he gets serious, more of his actual full power comes out, right? So going on that logic, I just imagine everything happens the way it does. Frieza shows up, he blows up that city, all the soldiers exit his ship, Gohan and them have already arrived, Buu and Hercule and them show up, you know what I mean? You have that situation going on there. They mention Gohan's weak, but Roshi's like, don't worry, we have Buu. Everything goes the way it does. Frieza sends his soldiers on them. They all go into a huge battle. Of course, some of the soldiers are trying to pick a fight with Buu, and he's just kind of laughing at them because nothing's really doing anything. And then, of course, they try to go after Satan, and Satan's like running for his life. That's when Buu gets serious, turns them into candy, and eats them. And the reason why I say that is because they're gonna die either way. Because remember, Frieza kills them, when he powers up. So they're gonna die either way. So he eats them. Of course, when that happens, Frieza is a person who instantly recognized the instant transmission and the Metamorph infusion. I'm not going to get into whether that makes sense, but I think that does kind of go in off the lore of his character and what his race represents. He has knowledge of his own universe. Sorry, Supreme Kai, Frieza has you beat. Anyways, I think it would be cool for Frieza to recognize that magic right off the bat, and then he looks at that symbol, da-da-ding, Majin Buu. It echoes, you know what I mean? And with that being said, imagine this, bro. They do a faraway shot, and it shows Buu on the cliff right after just eating those people he's getting done chewing, and then Frieza smirks, exits his little pod that carries him, boom, and it zooms in on his feet landing on the ground, and he releases a key. Now, like you said earlier, we don't really know if he can sense energy or not, but I think it would be cool at least for him to kind of acknowledge the overwhelming presence of him, because that's like in real life too, you can kind of feel when someone's a threat, So I think you would have him at least acknowledge that the demon of Universe 7, in Frieza's voice, right? Finally, nice to meet you. And then Boo's just like, just eating, right? Looking at him. And then, of course, Frieza shoots a death beam, boom, right through him. Buu rolls, pops back up, and then his thing just absorbs, and then Frieza, what? Psh, 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 right? Hits him and hits him and hits him, and he keeps rolling back. Nothing's happening. And then Frieza wonders, is he immortal? And it kind of calls back to Namek. So he's freaking out about this, and then Buu throws a piece of himself, wraps it around Frieza, and Frieza kind of gets scrunched. Buu just runs towards him, and then the fight begins. Now, again, first form Frieza. Obviously, it will probably be a situation that happened with Beerus where Buu keeps coming towards him, but Frieza gets the upper hand. But I think the sheer confrontation and the idea of Frieza being surprised by not only Buu's body, but his magical abilities leads to an awesome confrontation with finally Frieza putting him over, and then everyone on the sidelines, Gohan and them, kind of freaking out. And it goes to the whole idea that I think it pays more, because I think you could probably have Piccolo utter the words, "I can't believe Buu was lost," and then Gohan has to really, really think to himself, Dad and Vegeta aren't here. What do? I can't believe I slacked off like this. I think it pays more because he could say to himself, I used to be stronger than Buu and now I can't do anything. And of course, Satan's going crazy that Buu's just getting beat up. But you get my point here. I think just the idea of them coming to blows, it's like two bulls just going at it. I think that's really special.
See, the one thing I really love about that is just the amount of gravity that it would not only have for Frieza, realizing that yes, this is Majin Buu, and yes, I actually need to fight this entity here, but also Gohan. Like, Gohan is this type of person. When we got him powering up in the Fictional arc of Dragon Ball Super, he destroyed his body, but he was already broken, right? Like, I need to send a signaling beacon, and I just can't summon that energy, but he was already broken. It was the energy loss and the drain and the damage was already from Frieza. It wasn't from anything else, at least in my opinion. It would have been amazing if Gohan really thought strategically after seeing Majin Buu get destroyed in your scenario there, which I think is absolutely fucking amazing. Not to curse, absolutely your scenario there, which is absolutely amazing. I think that you have Gohan power up, not wounded at all, not really exhausted at all, but so heavily, bring out so much power in himself that it rips his body to shreds, and he's almost at the brink of death, right? Like, because it's the only option he has is to give Goku and Vegeta some kind of signal that maybe you should be looking out here. Maybe something going on here that you should actually be paying attention to if you're not actually thinking about it right now or even be able to sense it. And Gohan has that potential. Gohan has that character trait. It's not Frieza just completely taking out Gohan and him having some kind of last minute urge. He does it to himself, and that helps him drive forward in the retraining after everything that's happened in this arc and everything else. He decides after all this, it's not Frieza taking him down a peg or anything else like that. It's simply Gohan actually deciding that I need to bring out the potential in myself. And we get to see where he's going to go in the future of the series, or at least at that point in the series, we can speculate where he's going to go, because this guy still has it in him. And especially around the time that was happening, we had the arc of the manga going on where Vegeta was like, hey, Gohan has more potential than all of us. Why isn't he actually here? And we could think, oh man, they're going to bring him back sometime down the line. The point of this discussion and the point of this entire series is just to talk about, like, I don't want to say that Dragon Ball Super missed opportunities, but when you think about certain fights, when the series is pretty predicated on fights and built off of fights, told through fights, you wonder, why didn't they decide to do one thing versus another? Like, why did they decide to give us this when they could have given us that? And it could have made so much more sense for the narrative of the show. And you and I can only speculate one way or the other. Like, oh man, like, it would have been amazing if they had done this, and it could have really built the stage for everything that happens in the future or something like that. But we can only talk in hindsight, right? So yeah, to us, this makes a whole lot of sense.
No, yeah, I agree with everything you said. And plus, that just adds on to what we get in the Tournament of Power with Gohan. Like, Gohan, a lot. I'm not gonna get into this. I think you and I probably do have different views on whether he was wasted or not. But one thing that I don't think anyone can deny is the amount of episodes Gohan got to himself. You know, versus Lavender, the training, fighting Goku, Abuni. You know, and then of course all the stuff later. You know, with Dispo and stuff like that. I think, and then the robots too. So Gohan in this arc got a lot, and what you just said, I think, would just add more merit to why he is somewhat prevalent in this arc when he was probably absent throughout most of Super, you know?
Hmm. No, I completely agree, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. One of the things I want to bring to you guys in this series is just kind of a genuine discussion. We haven't talked about this before, MJ and I. We're just kind of really going off our heads, just our own creative thoughts, and I hope you guys have kind of felt like that. I hope you felt like we went into enough depth to give you something to think about, maybe in your own fan fiction or just fandom ways. Be like, oh man, I really would have liked to see that. That would have been a better interpretation of the Fakatsuno arc or Super in general. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed that. Don't forget to go down to the description section below. And I say this every single time, but I definitely mean it. Go check out MJ's channel. The guy makes awesome Dragon Ball content, anime content, and also, if you like these videos and you like the power level scaling and all this other stuff as well, please make sure to go check out his versus battles. Those are epic. I have to say, man, like those are one of the best things that I've ever seen in this community. I look forward to every single one, and I think everyone who's listening to this and has gotten this far should as well. At the same time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below because it's not just MJ and I talking on this, it's also you guys as well. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.